It was a routine training exercise for the pupils of the No. 2 Service Flying Training School on the morning of September 29, 1940, when 22-year-old Leonard Graham Fuller and 19-year-old Jack Inglis Hewson were to pilot 2 Avro Ansons over the region of New South Wales in Australia. While the trainees passed over the small town of Brocklesby, the tight formation made a turn, and suddenly they were out of view from each other. Without warning, the 2 aircraft collided and then merged one on top of the other, with the extraordinary incident captured on camera. The crew did not want to abandon the aircraft and have them plummet towards the habitational area below, but Fuller ordered everyone to jump out. The pilot then made up his mind. He would try to land both aircraft away from the town. Contingency plan. In contribution to the Empire Air Training Scheme during the early years of World War II, Australia founded several pilot training facilities. The huge British Commonwealth effort was a joint military aircrew program established by the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand to prepare airmen for the war. Nearly half of the pilots, navigators, bomb aimers, air gunners, wireless operators, and flight engineers from the British Commonwealth who served in the war were trained with the Air Training Plan. In fact, the BCATP remains one of the most massive aviation training programs in history. Service flying training schools received pupils after they were given basic aeronautical instruction at an elementary flying training school, which taught them the techniques they would require as operational or service pilots. The curriculum included instrument flying, night flying, cross-country navigation, advanced aerobatics, formation flying, dive bombing, and aerial gunnery. The No. 2 Service Flying Training School, based at the Royal Australian Air Force Station Forest Hill near Wagga Wagga in New South Wales, was still under construction when the courses began in the summer of 1940. Because of the ongoing war, Wagga Wagga had become a garrison town and hosted 2 other military bases at Kapooka and Uranquinty, in addition to Forest Hill. The school used the Avro Anson to train the new pilots. Originally developed as a commercial flight airliner, the Avro 652 was in service with Imperial Airways. However, on the lookout for a suitable maritime reconnaissance aircraft, the British Air Ministry noticed the model's potential, and a prototype twin-engined advanced training monoplane designated Avro 652A was then developed for the Royal Air Force. 174 aircraft were ordered only 4 months after the prototype was produced, and the new version was dubbed the Avro Anson, in honor of 18th century Admiral George Anson. Jumping straight into action, the Anson first served with the Royal Air Force Coastal Command, in the maritime reconnaissance role it had been created for. However, not long after, the aircraft showed severe limitations, and it was quickly becoming obsolete as a maritime aircraft against larger aircraft and flying boats. Nevertheless, its adaptability allowed it to become a competent multi-engine trainer. Hence, several Ansons were redeployed during the Empire Air Training Scheme, many of which wound up in Australia at the No. 2 SFTS in Forest Hill. Perhaps the most famous models would become tail numbers N4876 and L9162, which on September 29, 1940, collided and locked together during a cross-country training flight. Collision. "22-year-old Leonard Graham Fuller boarded his Anson for a regular training exercise over southern New South Wales, accompanied by navigator Ian Menzies Sinclair. Meanwhile, 19-year-old Jack Inglis Hewson was to fly with Hugh Gavin Fraser as his navigator. The route traced a triangle, passing over Korowa, then Narrandera, and finally returning to Forest Hill. As they took off and flew at 1,000 feet in a tight formation over Brocklesby, the pair suddenly made a banking turn. Hewson's Anson was behind Fuller's, flying a bit lower. As they turned, Hewson went out of sight, and neither pilot realized Hewson was now beneath Fuller. The 2 aircraft then collided mid-air. As Fuller later described, there was a, quote, grinding crash and a bang as roaring propellers struck each other and bit into the engine cowlings. As shown in photographs taken after the collision, both aircraft merged, but the lower one's turret wedged into the other's wing root, while its fin and rudder balanced the upper one's port tailplane. Fuller described it as a, quote, freak combination. Still, the upper aircraft's engines were knocked out in the crash, though the propellers tore into the engine cowlings of the one below. Hewson's engines kept running, but with the dead weight on top of the machine, the pilot was unable to pull away. The 4 airmen pondered their options. They did not want to bail out, as the aircraft would crash on Brocklesby and could result in many casualties. To make matters worse, Hewson had been injured when the spinning blades cut through his fuselage, and therefore could not pilot the aircraft, let alone the merged apparatus. Fortunately, Fuller realized the blend was steady enough and took charge of the situation, ordering his fellows to abandon the craft. The 3 of them then jumped into the sky and parachuted to safety. Fuller then attempted to fly the merged aircraft away from the town. Using the ailerons and flaps on his plane and the engines of the other one for thrust, he started making his way towards the base. However, the engines of the bottom aircraft began to lose power not long after, making the fusion increasingly harder to handle. Model pupil. After a stretch of about 5 miles, Fuller found a place to land. Drawing on his training, he spotted an empty paddock and ran the aircraft aground, sliding 200 yards across the grass before finally coming to rest. According to the pilot, the touchdown was the best landing he had ever made, significantly better than the circuits and bumps he had practiced barely a day before the incident. Fuller's acting commanding officer, Squadron Leader Cooper, noted that his choice of improvised runway was perfect, and that the landing itself was a, quote, wonderful effort. The Inspector of Air Accidents of the RAAF, Group Captain Arthur Spud Murphy, flew straight to the scene from the Air Force headquarters at Melbourne. Upon arrival, Fuller told him, quote, "Well, sir, I did everything we've been told to do in a forced landing. Land as close as possible to habitation or a farmhouse, and if possible, land into the wind. I did all that. There's the farmhouse, and I did a couple of circuits and landed into the wind. She was pretty heavy on the controls, though." The extraordinary exploit made headlines across the world, and the young hero was praised for his assertiveness when he chose not to bail out and protect the town instead. Furthermore, he had saved both aircraft from total loss and 40,000 Australian pounds worth of military hardware. The Ansons were subsequently repaired, although only the one on top returned to flight service, and the other was used as an instructional airframe. Fuller eventually earned a promotion to sergeant. However, the new celebrity talked too much to the media without express permission from his superiors and was confined for 14 days and docked 7 days' pay. Still, he went on to receive a commendation from the Australian Air Board due to his, quote, presence of mind, courage, and determination in landing the locked ensigns without serious damage to the aircraft under difficult conditions. Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe to all our Dark Documentaries channels and hit the like button. Also, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and stay tuned for more historical anecdotes and extraordinary feats.